What if Europe's most dangerous war is not fought on open fields, but hidden in plain sight, woven into headlines, rumors, and the uneasy silence between crises? Imagine a conflict so insidious that its true front lines run not across battle-scarred soil, but through the hearts and minds of millions. What if the next great upheaval is already underway, and most people do not even realize it? Across the continent, the warning signs are multiplying at a pace that rivals any escalation seen in living memory. In western Ukraine, far from any recognized front line, a shadow war festers. Civilians whisper quietly in cafes and markets about Ukrainian military units, once hailed as national heroes, now accused of turning on their own. Stories swirl of extortion, assault, and terror, with soldiers who swore an oath to protect instead becoming symbols of fear. Even elite brigades, such as the renowned 3rd Assault Brigade, are not immune. Mass arrests have rattled public faith in the armed forces, with some war-scarred veterans among the casualties, men who once stood as beacons of sacrifice, now tainted by suspicion. This is hardly an isolated incident. Throughout history, societies under strain have seen their protectors become threats. After the fall of the Roman Empire, for instance, the once proud legions devolved into mercenary bands, preying upon the very citizens they once defended. In Sierra Leone during the late 20th century, government soldiers and rebels alike blurred the line between protector and predator, leaving civilians desperate for safety. Ukraine's current turmoil echoes those tragic precedents, reminding us that the unraveling of trust can be as devastating as any military defeat. Meanwhile, the world's great powers are baring their teeth in a display of brinkmanship that recalls the darkest days of the Cold War. The United States and Russia trade public threats, each new declaration sharpening anxieties across Europe. The tension is not just rhetorical. In a recent shock, a plane carrying the American defense chief was forced into an emergency landing. The incident, widely reported, served as a stark reminder. Even the highest echelons of security are vulnerable. During the Cuban Missile Crisis, a single misstep or misunderstanding nearly plunged the world into nuclear catastrophe. Today, the stakes feel eerily similar, with technology and misinformation making the fog of war ever thicker. But the crisis does not end on battlefields or in airspace. Political fissures are splitting Europe at its very seams, pushing the continent toward a dangerous inflection point. Leaders scramble to lure Serbia away from Russia's energy grip, offering the promise of warmth and stability in exchange for loyalty. This is not unlike the energy politics of the 1970s, when OPEC's oil embargo forced Western nations to rethink their alliances and priorities. Now, Hungary digs in its heels, defying Brussels by refusing to sever Russian energy ties, declaring it will never let outsiders dictate its fate. The Hungarian Prime Minister's stance echoes Charles de Gaulle's refusal in the 1960s to subordinate French interests to NATO, signaling a belief in absolute sovereignty above all else. Meanwhile, Germany edges its fighter jets closer to Kaliningrad, a move heavy with historical resonance. In the Cold War, the Fulda Gap was once the most feared potential flashpoint between NATO and the Warsaw Pact. Today, Kaliningrad and its surroundings represent a similar tinderbox. Tensions flicker from there to St. Petersburg, with military movements and warnings exchanged in a rhythm all too familiar to historians of European conflict. The entire region vibrates with unease, each move raising the risk of something irreversible. None of this is mere coincidence. Each scandal and standoff signals a deeper, systemic unraveling. Old boundaries between friend and foe dissolve, as violence, extortion, and shadowy deals corrode the stability millions rely on. The warning lights are everywhere, in the financial markets, in energy prices, and in the rising tide of misinformation that clouds every public debate. If these warning lights go ignored, the next crisis may blindside us, shattering trust, threatening livelihoods, and leaving societies open to manipulation and disinformation. Imagine the sudden collapse of Yugoslavia in the 1990s. Seemingly stable, the country fragmented overnight, unleashing chaos and bloodshed that stunned the world. Could Europe be heading for another such rupture? It is time to untangle this web, beginning with the chaos erupting inside Ukraine itself. To understand what is really happening, we must begin on the ground, where Ukraine's internal turmoil may offer the clearest warning of what is to come. The first cracks are not always the loudest, but they are often the most revealing. The Soviet Union, for example, was undone not by open warfare, but by a slow erosion of trust, legitimacy, and social cohesion. Can we truly rely on those sworn to shield us when they themselves become the threat? In Ukraine, a haunting scandal has shaken the nation's faith. Members of the famed 3rd Assault Brigade, once lionized for their valor against Russian forces, now stand accused of horrific crimes far from the front lines. These alleged acts include kidnappings, torture, and brutal extortion, carried out not in the heat of battle, but in quiet western towns, hundreds of kilometers from the chaos of war. Police arrested dozens after uncovering a chilling network of corruption. Reports detail victims held hostage in cold, damp basements, beaten and threatened until they surrendered money or property. Most unsettling of all, some victims were fellow soldiers, wounded veterans, still recovering and expecting care, not cruelty. Those trusted to protect the nation instead turned predatory, igniting public fury and a deep sense of betrayal. The echoes of this scandal recall the My Lai massacre during the Vietnam War, when American troops were found guilty of atrocities against civilians, causing a seismic shift in public opinion back home. Even as these revelations spread, a separate storm brewed in Odessa. The city's mayor now faces accusations of possessing a Russian passport, a symbol of betrayal that could spell the end of his political life. Investigators suggest the passport may be a forgery, perhaps planted as part of a wider campaign to discredit him. This tactic, using false documents to smear or neutralize political opponents, has a long and checkered history. During the McCarthy era in the United States, forged evidence and blacklists ruined countless careers. The episode in Odessa raises urgent questions. Who benefits from sowing doubt, and who is orchestrating these shadowy plots? Each new revelation tears more holes in the fragile fabric of trust. Ukraine's military, already strained by war, now faces suspicion from its own people. Government agencies meant to ensure stability find themselves trapped in spirals of scandal and mistrust. As confidence erodes, the risk grows that criminal gangs, falsehoods, and outside influence will fill the vacuum. This is reminiscent of post-World War I Germany, where social and political fragmentation paved the way for extremists and demagogues to rise. The very bonds holding Ukrainian society together are under threat, leaving ordinary people exposed in a moment of national crisis. As the crisis deepens, Ukraine is not alone. Across Europe, similar tensions simmer, testing the resilience of institutions and the very trust on which societies depend. In France, the Yellow Vest protests revealed how quickly deep-seated grievances can explode into unrest. In the United Kingdom, the Brexit saga has shown how misinformation and suspicion can paralyze national decision-making for years. As faith crumbles at home, Europe's leaders brace for new battles, sometimes in the open, sometimes in the shadows. The continent transforms into a chessboard, where military shows of force, energy brinkmanship, and shifting alliances threaten to spill from headlines into everyday life. The Suez Crisis of 1956 comes to mind, when the struggle for control over a single canal threatened to draw in every major power, illustrating how local disputes can have global consequences. The United States delivers grave ultimatums to Moscow, promising harsh reprisals if Russia advances its campaign in Ukraine. Russia counters with brazen defiance, vowing to endure any pressure and signaling that it is prepared for a prolonged standoff. This echoes the high-stakes diplomatic confrontations of the Korean War, where neither side was willing to back down, and the world watched with bated breath. Across the Atlantic, NATO allies consolidate, pooling resources and escalating support for Ukraine. Each week, millions of euros worth of weaponry, ammunition, and intelligence flow across borders. The region grows ever more militarized, more unpredictable than it has been in decades. Recall the arms races of the early 20th century, when a continual buildup of weapons did not deter conflict, but instead made war almost inevitable. Germany acts with new resolve. Berlin has stationed Eurofighter jets at airbases close to Kaliningrad, placing advanced aircraft just minutes from Russian soil. The government has pledged over 10 billion euros to a new generation of drones, built for both attack and defense. For Germany, deterrence is no longer an abstract goal, but a concrete investment in its future security. This shift mirrors West Germany's remilitarization during the 1950s, when rearmament was seen as vital to national survival in a divided continent. But the battlefield is not only in the skies. Energy becomes a weapon as sharp as any missile. The European Union courts Serbia, offering promises of cheap gas and warm homes if Belgrade will support anti-Russian sanctions. Brussels warns that Serbia's path to European membership and its energy stability depends on turning away from Moscow. This is a page straight out of the Marshall Plan, when economic incentives were used to bind Western Europe together and fend off Soviet influence. Still, not every nation is ready to sever ties. Hungary stands apart, openly rejecting the European Union's demands and refusing to abandon Russian energy supplies. Hungarian leaders insist their energy security comes first, dismissing outside pressure as a threat to sovereignty. This recalls Switzerland's policy of neutrality during World War II, when the country refused to yield to the competing demands of warring superpowers, carving out its own path amid the storm. To the east, new alliances spark fear. Russia and Belarus announce even tighter military cooperation, conducting joint exercises and hinting at a shared defense. Ukrainian officials warn that Belarus could soon be drawn directly into the fighting, threatening to ignite another front in an already relentless war. Such alliances have often preceded major escalations. In 1914, secret pacts and mutual defense agreements helped turn a regional crisis into a world war. This volatile mix of arms and energy gambits offers no margin for error. A single misstep could trigger not just economic pain, but a wider conflict that redraws borders and upends millions of lives. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand was a seemingly minor event that, due to the web of alliances and mutual suspicions, led to global catastrophe. The lesson is clear. In a world on edge, accidents and miscalculations are as dangerous as deliberate aggression. Now, as alliances shift and saber-rattling grows louder, the boundary between peace and war grows dangerously thin. In such an environment, crises can escalate faster than governments can react. The world saw this during the Balkans Wars of the 1990s, when local disputes quickly spiraled into regional conflagrations involving multiple nations and ethnic groups. But the real danger may lie not just in what governments do, but in what ordinary people believe. In a fog of shifting loyalties and growing suspicion, the battle for public trust is only beginning. In the digital age, information warfare is as potent as any tank or missile. The spread of fake news and deepfakes, realistic but entirely fabricated videos, can sway elections, incite violence, or paralyze decision-making. During the Arab Spring, social media played a dual role, empowering protesters, but also fueling rumors and panic. If today's chaos is left unchecked, what kind of Europe will tomorrow bring? Are we on the verge of an era where disinformation is the norm and trust is the rarest commodity? We are teetering at the edge of a new reality. Emergencies that once shocked us are poised to become the new routine. In this shifting landscape, old alliances fracture, and the ground beneath our feet feels less stable with each passing day. In ancient Rome, the transition from republic to empire was marked by a series of emergencies, each one used to justify more drastic measures, until normalcy had vanished entirely. Picture a Europe where yesterday's rules offer no protection. Alliances can crumble overnight. Security is no longer a given. It is a moving target, constantly up for renegotiation. The collapse of Czechoslovakia in 1993 happened with surprising speed, catching many off guard and upending the lives of millions. Look to Syria, where a newly installed president cements Russian influence with a permanent military base. It is a bold move that tilts the balance of power across the Middle East. More chillingly, The president publicly vows to put former allies on trial for war crimes, showing that loyalty is expendable. Today's trusted partner could be tomorrow's scapegoat. This mirrors the fate of Saddam Hussein's inner circle in Iraq, many of whom were executed or imprisoned after falling out of favor. Instability is not confined to war zones. Even the most powerful are now vulnerable. When a United States government jet carrying senior defense officials was forced into an emergency landing over the Atlantic, it rattled elite circles. The message was unmistakable. No one, regardless of rank or resources, is beyond reach. Think of the downing of South Korean Airlines Flight 7 in 1983, which brought the world to the brink of another Cold War crisis. The specter of war is no longer a distant threat. In Gaza, Hamas faces a stark ultimatum: accept peace now or face direct military action from the United States. Such high-pressure tactics threaten to spiral into a broader conflict, sending shockwaves far beyond the region's borders. In the Cuban Missile Crisis, a similar ultimatum pushed the world to the edge of annihilation. Today, the stakes remain just as high, with more actors and more uncertainty. Meanwhile, the very notion of truth is under siege. Propaganda machines churn out forged documents and orchestrated incidents. Viral hoaxes and fake passports muddy reality, making it nearly impossible to discern fact from fiction. Even leaders find themselves adrift in a sea of uncertainty. In the 1930s, Nazi Germany mastered the use of propaganda to manipulate public opinion and justify aggression. Today, technology makes such manipulation faster and more convincing than ever before. Speaking out is becoming dangerous. Dissent and civic activism are met with repression. A Kazakh citizen storming a Russian radio station with anti-war slogans faces harsh punishment. Protests and independent journalism are being crushed, tightening the grip of fear while silencing alternative voices. The fate of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny, imprisoned and silenced for his activism, stands as a grim example of the risks faced by those who challenge the narrative. If these trends persist, the consequences could be even more severe than violence. We may soon face an era of normalized instability, where borders, laws, and basic truths dissolve. Those who can manipulate chaos will thrive. The rest, ordinary people, will see their safety, rights, and trust in institutions erode a little more each day. The collapse of the Weimar Republic in Germany was not solely a result of violence, but of a steady erosion of norms and trust. In a world tilting toward chaos, what can individuals do to protect themselves and their future? History offers some guidance. The answer may depend on a willingness to question everything and to seek out truth amid the noise. But first, we must confront how the ground beneath our feet is shifting and decide what, if anything, we can hold on to. During the darkest days of World War II, ordinary citizens in occupied Europe survived by building networks of mutual support, sharing information, and refusing to succumb to propaganda. Their resilience offers a blueprint for today. You cannot silence the headlines, but you can shield yourself from their hidden traps. Now, more than ever, the news cycle is a battleground. Your sharpest armor is skepticism. Never accept any claim, official or viral, without scrutiny. Ask, who stands to gain from this narrative? What details are missing? Which emotions are being stirred in you? This approach echoes the Socratic method, used by philosophers for millennia to uncover deeper truths. Do not rely on a single source or comfortable echo chamber. Instead, seek perspectives from multiple countries and backgrounds, including those you instinctively distrust. By comparing reports and questioning inconsistencies, you can spot where propaganda seeps in, disguised as fact. The collapse of Enron in the early 2000s was accelerated by a media echo chamber that failed to challenge official narratives until it was too late. Manipulation is often subtle. A scandal that explodes overnight, or an alarming alert that provokes fear. These are rarely accidents. Is this story crafted to provoke panic or outrage? Sensational headlines, altered images, and selective leaks are all familiar weapons for shaping your beliefs without your awareness. During the Spanish-American War, the saying, "Remember the Maine," was used to inflame public opinion based on questionable evidence, leading to war. But true resilience is not just a solitary mindset. When trust in institutions falters, your local connections matter most. Invest time in your neighborhood, contribute to grassroots groups, and champion proven local initiatives. The stronger your community web, the harder it is for misinformation to take hold or for you to be isolated by fear. In the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, communities with strong social ties recovered faster and more effectively than those where mistrust had taken root. Prepare for the shocks the headlines hint at, but do not let dread rule your life. Build a financial buffer, plan for possible shortages in essentials, and learn practical skills that make your community stronger. Support reliable local businesses, those with a track record, not just loud promises. During the Great Depression, families who diversified their skills and pooled resources were best able to weather the storm. Let your vigilance be a shield. Those who go numb and passive risk losing more than money. They risk autonomy. Panic, scams, and propaganda thrive when people look away. Stay alert, and you can protect not only yourself, but also your loved ones and your future. In the words of George Orwell, in a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. The headlines will never stop, but your fate is determined by how you react. Every generation faces moments of uncertainty, but those who engage, rather than retreat, shape the outcome. But what happens when the noise becomes overwhelming and the truth is nearly impossible to find? The final act reveals the tools you need to cut through the chaos. You are not powerless. Even in the most turbulent times, there are steps you can take to reclaim agency. The ultimate struggle is not about borders or governments. It is for your mind. Will you fight for clarity or let confusion take root? The information age has made each of us a frontline combatant in the war for truth. In a world where alliances shift overnight and every headline carries hidden intent, your most vital weapon is critical thinking. Scandals, military threats, and diplomatic maneuvers are not just distant stories. They are signals that the ground beneath us is unstable and the future is up for grabs. During the Renaissance, thinkers like Galileo and Copernicus received wisdom, changing the world by daring to look beyond the surface. If you remain passive, you are not simply an observer. You risk missing what truly endangers your safety, your livelihood, and your country's future. With manipulation everywhere and trust quickly fading, giving up your focus is giving away your power to those who benefit from uncertainty. In the stock market crashes of the 20th century, it was often those who failed to question the hype who suffered most. But if you choose to act, question, analyze, and cut through propaganda, you build a shield for yourself and those you care about. It is no easy task. Noise drowns out truth, facts are buried, and fear is wielded as a weapon. Still, your determination to connect the dots and resist easy answers can make you stronger amid the chaos. Consider the peaceful revolutions of 1989, when citizens across Eastern Europe demanded truth, transparency, and change, toppling dictatorships with the power of collective action and clear vision. So do not just watch, engage. Share what you see. Challenge the narratives and help others do the same. In a world tipping toward unpredictability, your resilience and vigilance are the only ways to protect what matters: your stability, your community, and your future. The ancient Greeks called this civic virtue, an obligation not just to oneself, but to the wider society. You alone choose whether chaos breaks you or sharpens your mind. The decision is yours. In a world of swirling rumors and shifting alliances, will you be swayed by fear or stand firm in pursuit of clarity and truth?